This presentation is on vaginismus and the topic being dilators. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce you to a dilator and explain its role with vaginismus, discuss self-treatment and physical therapy. And just a quick reminder, I am a woman with this condition. I'm not a physical therapist, specialist, or doctor. You can self-treat with this condition, and there are resources. The information that I've gathered has come from books and other professionals, and even recommendations of things that women have found that have been successful. Like even with my own, what I mean, like my own experiences and things that I have found that have helpful when I was doing dilating with the dilators. I highly recommend, if self-treating, getting one of the books sold by Vaginismus.com. What are vaginal dilators? They are devices that are used to condition the vaginal muscles that things can enter. So you're really sticking it in there, inserting it to train and teach your mind and body that things can enter in there and to allow things to accept things to be inserted, whether it's the tampon, penis, or the forceps or anything that's going to be placed in there for an OB/GYN's office. There are two examples here. One is vaginismus.com's, and then here's an example of Soul Sources. You can see that there's a different number of dilators in each. This one has colors to it. This one uses a handle, so you put the dilator on the handle, and then the handle is what you use to, insert and pull it out. There are different ways of doing it. You could purchase a whole set. Often the benefit of that is that you usually get somewhat of a discount. But some people will actually do individual because they can't afford to pay for the whole set. And there are some benefits to that, such that if things don't work out with one set, you could try up a different one by buying them individually. So those are things to consider, is the number of dilators you're getting. Some don't come with a handle, so that's something to consider. And if it's really important that you have a handle, you may not go for one set. You might want to research and make sure it does come with a handle. What are some terms for vaginal dilators? Some people use spacers and trainers. They are the same thing. They're not different. So if you hear someone saying, I use spacers, you can go, oh yeah, I use spacers too. I call them dilators. Or, if someone says that they're using vaginal trainers, they're using a dilator. It's no different. It's just that some specialists will use another term. If dilator, spacer, trainer doesn't appease you, you can actually give your dilators another name, a nickname, have some fun with it, whatever's going to make you comfortable, because sometimes you may not like a word and it may have a negative impact. When I was using dilators, I used the ones, my key term was friends. I'm going to go use my friends now, and that's what helped me. What are dilators made of? Silicone, wax, plastic, and glass. And these are just some examples of different materials. Something to keep in mind, that you might want to try a different material to see if your body will respond better. And that's where the benefit of buying individually might come into play, because you might find that you purchase the plastic ones and you just really don't like how they're feeling. Or in my case, and I didn't realize this at the time, I purchased mine through L'Oreal prescriptions, and mine came with a variety of sizes, a lot more in between sizes. And I think that was the one benefit of theirs. But it was made out of wax. I didn't like the feel of it. It didn't come with a handle. The largest was huge. I still think it's huge. Since I've made progress in my treatment and my working with this condition, in my own healing process, it's not as big as what I remember when I first started, but it's still pretty big. But it had some more in between sizes. So there were some pluses to that set, but there was also a bunch of negatives. And probably if I had done more research at the time that I was using dilators and doing it individually, I might have went back online and ordered a different set. But I didn't. Are there other options for dilators? If you buy the whole set and you're finding that you're not that you can't jump up to the next one, it's too big of an increase, you can try finding a vibrator at a sex store. Vibrators can work as dilators. You might be able to find a size that's in between the one that you're working on to the next one. In fact, if you bring your dilator to the sex store, I have heard that they tend to be very understanding and actually seem to be familiar with this. So it might be worth a try if you're comfortable enough to carry your vibrator or your dilator in and say you want something that's slightly bigger than that, they might be able to help you. Sometimes using a tampon as a dilator can help. Dildos, similar to vibrators, you can use those. There is a website that you can actually make a cast of your husband or partner's penis and then use that, and they'll actually make the dildo for you, and then you can dilate with that. Where can you get dilators? Soul Source, Pure Romance, Vaginismus.com, L'Oreal prescriptions. And there are other places. Sometimes you can get it from your physical therapist. Like I said, I would research how many you're getting, what the pricing, the material, and if it has a handle, because those are things you would want to consider when purchasing. How to use the dilator. Use tons of lube on the dilator. There is really no such thing as too much. Honestly, use as much as you need. Vaginismus.com doesn't recommend use of a condom. However, some places do, some physical therapists will have their members use condoms on the dilators. Or maybe you want to get used to being able to use a condom because you want to use it to be able to have sex. So you could try. I honestly think it's a personal thing. It isn't so much one is right or wrong. It's each person is individually different. Put some relaxing music and find a position or a place that is comfy. Some find spreading the legs out helps, some don't. It's whatever helps you. There really is no wrong position. It's what's comfortable for you. Also, with the music, going back to that, deep breathing and just relaxation and meditation before. Insert one of the dilators in. Recommendation: hold it in there, let it stay inside, and even try and maybe even try to thrust with the dilator. Don't move up a size until you can at least either put it inside, keep it in there a while, and take it out a few times without pain, or being able to thrust it several times really quickly without pain. I honestly would be thinking that maybe you could do a combo thing, like keep it in, maybe try to move it a little bit, taking it out, and if you have no pain, several times doing that, then maybe try thrusting it in there. And if you're able to do that without pain, then that's your signal to go ahead and go on to the next size. Frequency. Really good goal is twice a day, like morning and night if possible. But life can be busy and not everybody has 15 to 30 minutes of time every day, twice a day. So I think the good rule of thumb is just to remember that the more frequently you can use the dilators, the more opportunities your muscles will get success in learning that you can have things inside there. It's retraining the brain and the muscles. Transitioning to sex. Some people find getting a dildo that is larger than the dilator set to help with the transition. Just use the goals, whatever goals that you have with your other dilators, whether it's to be able to keep it in there with no pain and taking it out so many times, or if it's thrusting it, and being able to do it so many times without pain, or if it's a combo of the thrust and keeping in, whatever your goals were with the other one, keep it the same. It might help to dilate or orgasm before attempting insertion of sex. The other one is try with woman being in control and the partner showing respect by listening the first time. This might take some time to gain confidence and lots of lube. And what I mean by that is that I know with my husband, the first time that we were given the okay by our physical therapist to try, I took control like by holding his penis and guiding it down, and I would tell him go down a little bit lower, very slowly, and he was very respectful, listened, and then I'd tell him to go up, and he would lift up a little bit, and then I would let him slowly inch down a little bit more, and then as he would enter more and more of me, and then when he was completely inside, I would remove my hand from the base of his penis, and this would signal to him that it was okay to thrust. And that happened several times. In the very beginning parts of the successes, the part to getting to thrust and just being relaxed took longer. I will say that after I had my son, and I regressed and I finally made progress, that we had shorter periods of foreplay, and even the insertion time took a lot less. So there was definitely progress, and I'm looking forward to when I get myself back to where I was before having my daughter, who is only 5 months right now. Some different positions to try. Missionary, woman on top lying. I find that most people tend to prefer the woman on top or the missionary. I prefer missionary just because I feel like I have more control, and I prefer my legs to be on the outside more. Some prefer the woman on top because they feel like they have more power. But I would find a position that does not have as much deep insertion, especially for the first time. And also, some have found that using the dilator before inserting the male penis to be very helpful. So, like you're dilating, you take it out really quickly and then insert with the male's penis. Quickly, you can do this individually. A lot of people have. I know numbers who have self-treated themselves, and it's really great if you can do that. If you're struggling, I really encourage you to look to see if you can find a physical therapist. Not all physical therapists use dilators. My physical therapist does not use dilators, so I haven't really touched a dilator in several years. But when I was speaking to my physical therapist, because she was asking, why I questioned, or at first kind of had some doubts at first, because she wasn't talking about dilators. She said that yes, most other physical therapists do what she does in sessions with the internal, but they use the dilators to prevent regression. So, like, they'll give you a homework assignment to use the dilator at home, and they'll tell you what size and give you like directions about how often you're supposed to be doing it. So, kind of the benefit I think with physical therapists is not only do you get you get exercises to really hone in on the muscles, and also if you're using the dilators, you kind of get some guidance with that, and it's not as much of trying to read up and following things online and hoping that you're doing it right. So they can kind of watch you and give you some tips and pointers. I'm not saying you have to go for a physical therapist. If you can do it individually, that's probably the best because you're not having to pay copays and you're just paying for the dilators. So I encourage you to join a social media site. Vaginismus.com has a forum where you can ask questions. They also have a book. You can even talk to your OB/GYN. Sometimes some of the vaginismus, some OB/GYNs are knowledgeable in vaginismus and can give some guidance with the dilators as well. But they're nothing to be afraid of, scary. You can do this, and this is a treatable condition.